Offline. Ja, nicht online. Guck nochmal nach. Streaming, perfekt. Klappt. Ich bin jetzt das erste Mal live mit dem Stream über meine VR-Brille. Ja, ich weiß, ich muss gleich das Mikrofon wechseln. Ich glaube mal jetzt schon mal, dass bei dann kann ich mit meinen Freunden quatschen.
Vrchat. Hi. Ja, es funktioniert. Keine Ahnung. Keine Ahnung, hat einfach nicht funktioniert. Wow. Aber das Problem ist, einfach nicht funktioniert. Ich habe einfach probiert, was du gesagt hast, aber einfach nicht. Bin gerade nur auf K. Ich weiß nicht warum. Ja. Wie war dein Tag? Anscheinend nicht. Wie war FNAF-Movie? Okay. Hab den ersten Mal was angeguckt. Okay. Okay.
Hä? Hä?
Willkommen zurück.
Jo. Oh Mann, bitte, runter. Jetzt. Geht doch. Ja. Shot. Oh.
Wir machen
Ich muss mal kurz hier gucken bei mir. Äh, ja. Ja, was habe ich noch für Müll aufgenommen? Müll! Ja. Müllschrott. Ich muss mal gucken hier. Alter! Nee, juckt! Alter! Ah, nee, das darf ich nicht kratzen. Das blutet wieder. Oh, oh, Alter, meine Rücken. Nee, oh, mein Fuß, ey, der juckt. Oh, weg. Die Musik, das ist die Warteschleife. Jetzt wieder. Ach, das ist ja geil, Alter. Den Mix. Oh, geil. Ui, 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 ui. Ja. Ich habe ein paar Szenen gefunden. Ich habe ein paar Szenen von dem Film gefunden.
Kommen wir gleich wieder. Bin nur kurz
Okay,
weg.
okay, kein Problem. Ja. 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 Mhm. Mhm. Alter, geil. Alter. Ja. Ich werde gucken nachher. Mhm. Mhm. Ja. Ja. Mhm. Ich habe jetzt eine YouTube-Welt gefunden. Hier drüben eine YouTube-Welt. Ach mein Gott, nochmal bitte, hör auf zu lecken. Mein Gott.
So, bei mir ist gerade Beate gestürzt.
Ja. Und ich hatte gerade ein Timeout gehabt von VR-Chat. Ich hatte gerade dieses Timeout.
Ja. Ah ja, okay.
Zeitüberschreitungsschüsse. Diesen Server habe ich geschnauzt. Mein Gott, oh Mann, ey. Browser jetzt für den Arsch. Oh nee. teilweise illegale Böller. Das finde ich ja cool. Ich sag mal ganz besonders Scream. Oh, die sind noch viel heftiger als normale. Der hat einen
Alter.
richtigen. Ja. Besonders die Häupter von Scream.
Der war sehr lang.
Ja. Achtung!
Oh nee.
Ja, komm.
Den kenn
Der
ich schon.
kommt. Ja.
Die fangen an. Das ist eine Geburtstagskarte.
Ist es auch.
Boom. Kann man mal Hand halten.
Mhm.
Der war.
Hat auch. Mal sehen, wie der wird. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Erstmal ein schöner Vorbrenner. Und
Der
dann,
ist
ja, auch. Los. Ja. Das Video ist noch neu. 7 Stunden oder so. Ja. Big Boy. Boah, nee. Mhm. Alter. Oh, der ist in Deutschland. Stimmt, naja. 100% illegal. Illegal. Kommt jetzt noch? So ein Feuerzeug habe ich mir auch gekauft. Aldi. Mit Nachdruck. Ungefähr für 5 Euro. Das ist wirklich.
God of Louis. Kopf weg über Mörser.
Heilig.
Ich habe mal 100 Pro, der Baum ist im Arsch. Dieser.
Der arme Baum.
Ja, das stimmt, armer Baum. Der hat's noch überlebt. Hm. Das war Ende. Jetzt kommt irgendwas mit Five Nights at Freddy's.
Endlich wurde der zweite Film von Five Nights at Freddy's veröffentlicht und wir alle sind ungeduldig, den dritten Teil zu sehen. Aber was werden wir im nächsten Film sehen? Welche Rolle wird William Afton nun spielen, da er zurückgekehrt ist? Das sind Fragen, die wir beantworten werden. Heute in Charlie Tales erzähle ich euch alles, was wir über den dritten Film der Saga wissen. Wir werden Theorien analysieren und sie mit den
Ja.
Originalspielen verbinden. Bereit? Fangen wir an.
Aber egal. Den zweiten Teil, den ersten Teil noch angeguckt.
Der zweite Film endete
Wollte ich
damit,
machen.
dass mehrere Handlungsstränge etabliert wurden, die in einem dritten Teil abgeschlossen werden müssen. Beginnen wir mit den Post-Credit-Szenen. Die erste zeigt uns die
Ja.
Pizzeria aus dem ersten Film. Hier können wir die Leiche von William Afton im Spring Bonnie-Anzug sehen. Doch seine Augen leuchten, was uns zeigt, dass er
Ja.
endlich ins Leben zurückgekehrt ist, um Rache zu nehmen. In dieser Szene ist Springtrap geboren,
Ja.
der Schurke des dritten Teils sein wird. In den Spielen ist Springtrap eine abgenutzte Version von Spring Bonnie. Im Anzug befindet sich der tote Körper und die Seele von William Afton, der wieder zum Leben erwacht ist, um Rache zu suchen. Er ist der Hauptantagonist des Spiels Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Dieses Spiel ist wichtig, denn höchstwahrscheinlich wird der nächste Film seiner Geschichte folgen. Aber worum geht es in Five Nights at Freddy's 3? Dieses Spiel spielt nach dem Tod von William Afton. Die Animatronics sind zu sehr populären urbanen Legenden geworden. Also beschließt eine Gruppe von Unternehmern, die Pizzeria zurückzubringen, aber auf eine andere Weise. Dieses Mal erschaffen sie einen Ort namens Fazbear's Fright, die Horrorattraktion.
Ja.
Dies ist eine Art Museum, das der ursprünglichen Pizzeria gewidmet ist, aber als Horrorattraktion funktioniert, um das Publikum zu erschrecken. An diesen Ort bringen sie alle Teile der alten Animatronics. Und unter diesen Dingen bringen sie den Spring Bonnie-Anzug, ohne zu bemerken, dass sich darin die Leiche von
Alter.
William Afton befindet. Der Protagonist dieses Spiels ist ein unbekannter
Alter.
Sicherheitswächter. Er beginnt eine Woche vor der Eröffnung des Museums zu arbeiten. Das Problem entsteht, als dieser Wächter vom Geist William Aftons heimgesucht wird, der als Springtrap wieder auferstanden ist. Das ist im Grunde die Handlung des dritten Spiels. Und wie ihr sehen
Ja.
könnt, würde sie das Ende des zweiten Films sehr gut fortsetzen. Uns wurde perfekt die Rückkehr von William Afton präsentiert. Und uns wurde auch gezeigt, dass die Animatronics
Ja.
zu urbanen Legenden geworden sind. Im zweiten Film sahen wir sogar ein Festival mit Pizzeria-Thema. In diesem Kontext ist es für mich offensichtlich, dass der dritte Film uns die Erschaffung des Horrormuseums zeigen wird. Natürlich würden wir Mike wieder als Protagonisten sehen. Es gibt keine andere mögliche Option. Sprechen wir über die Animatronics. Werden sie zurückkehren? Im zweiten Film sahen wir, dass die Seelen der Kinder befreit wurden. Also sind diese Animatronics höchstwahrscheinlich für immer verschwunden. Natürlich löst das Spiel FNAF 3 dieses Problem. Im Spiel werden uns neue Versionen präsentiert, die Phantom Animatronics genannt werden. Sie sind weder die originalen Animatronics noch Roboter. Sie sind nur geisterhafte Halluzinationen, die vom bösen Geist William Aftons erschaffen wurden. Sie terrorisieren den Spieler, indem sie Fehler im Überwachungssystem verursachen. Sie töten jedoch nie, denn wie gesagt, sie sind nicht real. Es sind Halluzinationen, die den Weg bereiten, damit Springtrap den Spieler angreifen kann. Die Idee geisterhafter Illusionen wäre mutig für
So
den
ist
nächsten
es nicht
Film,
richtig.
aber nicht
Die
unvernünftig.
Geister
Wir haben
versuchen,
bereits
einen aus
Geister in
der
den ersten
Pizzeria
beiden
zu
Filmen
treiben.
gesehen. Also würde ich mich trauen zu sagen, dass wir die Phantom Animatronics in FNAF 3 sehen werden. Sprechen wir über Henry Emily. In der zweiten Post-Credit-Szene hinterließ er eine Nachricht, in der er Mike vor Puppet warnte. Henry sagt, dass die Marionette hinter ihm her sein wird. Außerdem stellt Henry klar, dass er noch Technologie besitzt, um Animatronics zu erkennen. Das ist sehr interessant, denn es zeigt uns Henry als Unterstützung für Mike. Mit all diesem Kontext glaube ich, dass Henry im nächsten Film entscheidend sein wird und Mike Werkzeuge geben wird, um zu überleben. Außerdem kennt Henry sicherlich die Schwächen von William Afton, da er jahrelang mit ihm zusammengearbeitet hat. Und schließlich müssen wir natürlich Henrys Geschichte mit seiner Tochter Charlotte abschließen. Er muss sich mit seiner Tochter wieder vereinen und natürlich sehen, dass sie befreit wird. Was wird mit Vanessa passieren? Der zweite Film endet damit, dass sie von Puppet besessen wird. In diesem Kontext ist es ziemlich klar, dass sie nicht länger eine Unterstützung für die Protagonisten sein wird. Mikes Handlung wird sich darum drehen, Vanessa zurückzugewinnen. Wir müssen uns daran erinnern, dass sie eine enge Freundin von Charlotte war. Diese Verbindung wird Vanessa höchstwahrscheinlich ermöglichen, zu ihr durchzudringen. Am wahrscheinlichsten ist es, dass Puppet den nächsten Film als Schurkin beginnt und vielleicht von William Afton manipuliert wird. Soweit wir wissen, weiß Charlotte nicht, dass William derjenige war, der sie getötet hat. Sie sah jemanden im Hasenkostüm und gab den Erwachsenen der Party die Schuld an ihrem Tod. Dieses Missverständnis könnte es William ermöglichen, zu versuchen, sie zu manipulieren. Die Idee ist nicht neu. Die Kinder aus dem ersten Film wurden von William getötet und haben ihm trotzdem geholfen. Das lag daran, dass William ihre Erinnerungen manipulierte, sodass sie nicht wussten, dass er sie getötet hatte. Etwas Ähnliches könnte mit Puppet passieren. Die neue Version von William könnte ihre Erinnerungen manipulieren, um sie unter seiner Kontrolle zu halten und gegen Mike einzusetzen. Vanessa wäre entscheidend, um dieses Problem zu überwinden. Eine weitere interessante Theorie ist, dass Vanessas Ende ziemlich dunkel sein wird. Es ist möglich, dass Vanessa vom Animatronic Circus Baby absorbiert wird, der uns bereits in diesem Film vorgestellt wurde. Wie viele wissen, hat William Afton in den Videospielen eine Tochter namens Elizabeth. In ihrer Kindheit wurde sie von Circus Baby absorbiert. Dies ist eines der bekanntesten Ereignisse für die Spieler. In den Filmen gaben sie dieser Tochter den Namen Vanessa und änderten ihre Geschichte ein wenig. Aber jetzt, da uns Circus Baby vorgestellt wurde, ist die Möglichkeit zurückgekehrt, die originale Geschichte erneut aufzugreifen. Außerdem müssen wir an Vanessas erzählerischen Bogen denken. Sie fühlt sich schuldig, weil sie ihrem Vater jahrelang geholfen hat, Opfer zu finden. Außerdem beendete sie in diesem zweiten Film ihre Beziehung zu Mike, weil sie ihn ständig belogen hat. Sie möchte alles wieder gut machen und den Schaden beseitigen, den sie angerichtet hat. Ein zufriedenstellendes Ende wäre, dass sie Circus Baby besitzt, um die Protagonisten zu retten. Sie haben keine Animatronics mehr, die sie unterstützen können. Die Kinder aus dem ersten Film sind verschwunden. Es wird sehr schwierig sein, Springtrap ohne Unterstützung der Animatronics zu besiegen. Aber natürlich ist dies nur eine Theorie. Glaubst du, dass Vanessa als Circus Baby enden wird? Sprechen wir über Michael Afton. In diesem Film wurde er uns als Sohn von William Afton offenbart. Michael ist ziemlich verstört und wollte das Erbe seines Vaters fortführen, indem er Massaker anrichtet. Allerdings wurde er gefangen genommen und wir hoffen, dass er für seine Verbrechen bezahlt, obwohl es am wahrscheinlichsten ist, dass er entkommt und als Schurke im dritten Film zurückkehrt. In den Spielen erhalten wir mehr Informationen über seine Zukunft und diese ist ziemlich düster. In dem Spiel von Sister Location wird Michael in einer Maschine gefangen, die von seinem eigenen Vater gebaut wurde. Diese Maschine entfernt seine inneren Organe und ein Animatronic namens Enna gelangt in seinen Körper. Dies führt dazu, dass Michael zu einem Fleischanzug für Ennard wird. Dann beginnt sein Körper sich zu zersetzen und die Farbe zu verändern. Deshalb nennt man ihn den Lila Mann. Am Ende verfällt Michaels Körper so sehr, dass Ennard ihn verlässt, weil er kein geeigneter Wirt mehr ist. Und überraschenderweise wird Michael in seinem verrotteten Körper wiederbelebt, dank der Wirkung des Remnants. Das ist eine Flüssigkeit, die dazu dient, Animatronics wiederzubeleben. Nach all dem spricht Michael den Satz aus: Ich werde dich finden, Vater. Und wir verstehen, dass er seinen Vater suchen wird, um sich für alles zu rächen, was ihm passiert ist. Mit all diesem Kontext können wir bereits vermuten, wohin der Weg des Michael aus den Filmen führen wird. Man kann ihn nicht einfach so im Gefängnis lassen. Er muss als Schurke zurückkehren und höchstwahrscheinlich werden einige Elemente aus den Spielen übernommen. Zum Beispiel die Idee, dass er in einer Maschine seines Vaters hingerichtet wird. Ich glaube, dies wäre das ideale Ende für ihn. Man könnte ihn wie in den Spielen als Zombie zurückbringen, aber ich glaube, das wäre ziemlich kompliziert. Ich würde diese Idee für einen 4. oder 5. Film aufheben. Das sind meine Theorien für die Zukunft des Franchise. Das war's für heute. Wenn dir das Video gefallen hat, würde es mir sehr helfen, wenn du mir einen Like hinterlässt. Das wäre legendär. Außerdem vergiss nicht zu abonnieren, um mehr solcher Videos zu sehen. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören.
Short. Er kam Golden Freddy vor im zweiten Teil. Golden Freddy. Kam der, ich weiß, dass im ersten Teil der Endcredit-Scene vorkam. Ah, der.
Das hier sind alle Animatronics, die im zweiten FNAF-Film auftauchen. Und glaubt mir, es sind mehr als ihr vielleicht denkt. Achtung, Spoilerwarnung. Angefangen mit den Originals, die ihre Rückkehr am Ende des Films haben und gegen die Toys kämpfen. Wenn wir schon von ihnen sprechen, natürlich sind auch die Toys im Film, sowie Mangle, Puppet, Balloon Boy und natürlich auch die Withered Animatronics, die allerdings nur sehr wenig Screentime bekommen haben. Außerdem tauchen 2 Animatronics kurz auf, nämlich Circus Baby und Shadow Bonnie. Oder sollte ich eher sagen RWQFSFASXC. Golden Freddy taucht am Ende nur kurz in seiner Kindform auf. William Afton sieht man zudem einmal als Spring Bonnie und in einer Post-Credit-Szene auch noch als Springtrap. Und für diejenigen, die besonders gut aufgepasst aufgepasst haben. Ganz am Anfang vom Film, als wir in der FNAF 2 Pizzeria sind, können wir auch noch an einem Spielautomat Candy the Cat aus dem Fangame Five Nights at Candy's sehen. Habe ich einen vergessen? Schreibt es mir in die Kommentare. Und vergesst nicht, mir jetzt noch schnell zu folgen, um nichts mehr zu verpassen. Schickt das Video euren Freunden, um ihnen zu sagen:
Ghost children, crazed animatronics, and a series-killing bunny are back in the newest installment of Five Nights at Freddy's, and we are going to break it all down for you and what the ending means for a potential third film in this franchise. Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and put on your Freddy Fazbear masks because we are diving into all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Now, if this franchise is known for one thing, it's its highly convoluted and ever-retcon lore. So this film, like the first one, takes a little bit of everything from each game and book and boils it down to a slightly more coherent timeline of events, all while holding onto the general themes and background from the source material. FNAF 2 takes place 2 years after the events of the first movie in 2002, which is already a departure from the game timeline, as it's believed to take place during the mid to late 90s when the first game is set. More so, the sequel game is actually a prequel to the first one. Unlike this film, it's just a true sequel. Sort of. The film opens with Matthew Lillard back as the murdering bunny William Afton, welcoming the kids back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and in a meta sense, welcoming the audience back as well. Now, while the Universal logo scrolls by, we hear the iconic children's "Yay!" from the games that plays every time you survive a night. Afton then counts down from 10, and I think this is a FNAF 4 reference. So every minigame within FNAF 4 opens up with a countdown, blank days until the party. The party that happens on day 0 is the infamous bite of 83.
Was that the bite of 87?
No, it wasn't.
Which we don't see happen in this movie, but instead a different tragedy occurs. More on that in a second. Afton then hits the Showtime button, which we also saw in the first movie here, and it was originally taken from the Help Wanted video game where the animatronics will perform a song for the player if they press the button. We then cut to the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria in the franchise with the date 1982 marked on the screen. So, like I said, prequel sequel in a sense. See, in the game timeline, the events of FNAF 2 take place roughly 6 years prior to FNAF 1. But again, the established timeline is a mess in and of itself. There are numerous videos on YouTube that say they finally figured out the FNAF timeline, but truly, only Scott Cawthon will ever know when any of this takes place. So that being said, this is all a very loose timeline of events. Inside the pizzeria, which is nearly a one-to-one replica of the FNAF 2 location, they have the carousel and everything, a birthday party is being held. We're then introduced to Charlotte, Charlie, Emily, and man, did I not think we'd ever see this on screen. Charlie was first introduced in FNAF 2 in the mini-game Take Cake to the Children. In that game, you give cake to each of the kids, but locked outside stands Charlie, who is then abducted and killed by William Afton, making her his first victim. Since FNAF 2, a lot more of Charlie's backstory and history has been developed, but we'll touch on that in a bit. And I have to shout out the costuming here too. In the first film, the missing kids who bonded with the animatronics all had outfits that matched the ones they corresponded to. And here, Charlie is wearing a striped shirt underneath a black t-shirt, mimicking the design of the marionette. Such a nice touch. When the party continues on in the background, Charlie's attention is focused on the marionette's entrance door, a slight change from where the marionette resided in the game. When a young Vanessa asks her about her fascination with the puppet, Charlie says that it's the only one who she can rely on to protect her, very similar to the marionette's actions in the game. Now, while it occasionally attacks the player when you forget to wind up its music box, in many games like Give Gifts, Give Life in FNAF 2, we see the marionette give each of the dead children a gift and a life by putting their soul inside the animatronic suits. Ooh, you know, my back is feeling a lot better lately. Let's take a look around the store and I'll show you guys some BTS on how we make the videos. Oh boy, that's so cool. Alright, so this is the actual office where I work. Like when I watch shows, I watch the monitor, I usually kick my feet up on the desk like this. And get this, this is the actual terrible chair that I used throughout COVID and it almost destroyed my back. So I upgraded to this FlexiSpot C7 Max. They're the sponsor of this video. I love this chair. It has totally changed my workday. It has a 3D adjustable headrest. And there's also a latex seat cushion with memory foam. And most importantly for me, they have these 5D armrests, which you can arrange for work, gaming, or in my case, I can actually sit cross-legged in my chair, which is how I usually like to watch things. And of course, you can adjust the height, and you can also also recline. It's so comfortable. But best of all for me, we have the lumbar support. Now this is supporting your sacrum, which is more ergonomic, and it means no more back and shoulder pain for me. Guys, I spend most of my day in this chair, so I want to be comfortable and safe, and frankly, my back was screwed. I had to go to PT, doctor visits, and this chair, just the workday glides by when I use it. I don't even notice that I'm sitting for hours. So if you want to try one out, they have a 30-day return policy with a risk-free trial, and they have a 10-year warranty with direct replacement for damaged parts. Please use our code C730 for 30% off when you use our link in the description. And if you have a limited budget, you can also check out their C5 chair, which is also a high-quality chair with basic functions for adjustment as well. Or you can check out their just-launched C7 Morpher, which features an upgraded lumbar support system and upper back rest. So to get 30% off your own FlexiSpot C7 and Max, click our link below. You will not regret it. Now back to what I was saying. Now, much like in her introduction in the game, Charlie is left on the outskirts of the party, leading her to be the one who realizes when Afton lures a little boy away, presumably to kill him. As soon as she notices something's wrong, she tries to get the attention of anyone at the party to help, similar to how she tried to get the attention of the other kids at the party in the game, only for them to ignore her. In both situations, the negligence of others leads to her death. Now, when Charlie goes backstage to help the little boy, Vanessa stops her, implying that she knew all along what her father had been planning to do. But I thought you said Charlie was his first victim. And she is, but within the pizzeria. See, I think that Garrett, Mike's missing brother, is Afton's first victim. Garrett has always stuck out as a weird kill in this franchise. While thematically it connects Mike to the FNAF world, it's the only murder that's taken place outside of Freddy's, which doesn't line up with Afton's MO. So maybe he kidnapped Garrett all those years ago, got a taste for blood, and then realized an even better way of luring his victims in, by dressing up as a kind of yellow rabbit. So Charlie follows after Afton and the child, following the sound of his whistling into the kitchen, and if that tune sounded familiar, that's because it's the music that plays when you die in FNAF 1. It's quite fitting given the events that are about to occur. And during this whole scene, we were reminded of the Jurassic Park scene when Lex and Tim hide behind the cabinets from the raptors, just like how Charlie was hiding from the apex predator in here. Charlie then saves the kid, similar to her actions as the marionette, but is then chased down by a knife-wielding Spring Bonnie. While Afton did use a knife in the game to kill his victims, it's also a nod to Lillard's first serial killer role in the 1996 film Scream as one of the Ghostface killers who also used a knife to stab his prey.
Like scary movies.
Charlie unfortunately gets got and falls to her knees above the marionette trapdoor with tears streaming down her face, exactly like the marionette's face paint design. Now when the door opens beneath her, she's lifted up by the marionette and her soul latches onto it. Now while the location is different to her death in the game, with her being killed outside, this is an incredible reference to the speech that her father Henry Emily makes at the end of FNAF 6.
And for those you have carried in your arms.
We then get another sick 8-bit style intro credit scene similar to the one in the first film, and also similar to the style of all the minigames within the franchise. In the intro, we see all of the toy animatronics, Toy Bonnie, Freddy, Chica, and Foxy. Toy Foxy is especially cool to see as we've only seen the unmangled version of them on posters within the FNAF 2 game. The puppet then rises behind them, symbolizing her control of the animatronics later in the film. We then get a series of newspaper clippings about Charlotte's death, pizzeria under investigation, girl dies in Fazbear accident, girl blamed for accident, and child entered restricted area, a reference to FNAF 5.
It seems that you have accidentally wandered into a restricted area.
Now, the newspaper clippings are an Easter egg within an Easter egg to FNAF 1, as there was a 1 in 20 chance that a player would stumble upon them throughout the game. The last newspaper we see is an advertisement for a new Freddy's Pizzeria. That's the one we were in the last movie, following the timeline structure of the game. And you'll notice a familiar duo credited for the score, the Newton brothers, who composed the first FNAF score, as well as X-Men 97 and Daredevil Born Again. The opening credits end on the same photo of Afton and Vanessa that we saw in the previous movie, with William wearing his Spring Bonnie suit and Vanessa holding an orange plane. The plane, you'll remember, belonged to Mike's brother Garrett, leading us to believe that all of the trinkets Vanessa puts out later, her childhood toys, were actually trophies from all of his victims. Dad of the year right there. His suit, and all of the animatronics really, are an incredible replica from the game. The only difference being the eye color, with the film version having blue eyes and the game version having green. And then we pick up 20 years after the death of Charlie and 2 years after the end of the last film in 2002. Finally. Look, it's a lot of lore, okay? So we meet back up with Mike and Abby, who seem to be doing well in a brand new house. Mike invites his old security guard friend Jeremiah over to help paint. You remember we met him in the first film.
I wish I could participate in that memory and actively kick my own ass.
Now, Jeremiah mentions how the town has become obsessed with whatever happened at Freddy's a year ago, citing Mike's Aunt Jane as the reason for all this hubbub. Now, you remember Aunt Jane from the first film, who was assumed to have been killed by Golden Freddy.
Silly Aunt Jane. She fell asleep.
Within Mike's house, we see the drawing that Abby made of her time at Freddy's, with all of the animatronics after they built a fort in the first film, which we last saw hanging on the fridge. When Abby is on the bus to school, she tells the kids on the bus about her experience at the pizzeria, giving a pseudo recap of the previous movie. Now, I thought this was a really cool meta Easter egg, as I'm sure a lot of Five Nights fans found out about the games this way, playing the scary new horror game on the back of the bus to middle school, so I thought it was a nice touch. At school, we meet a new character, Abby's robotics teacher, Mr. Berg, played by the great character actor Wayne Knight, who you'll recognize from Seinfeld, Toy Story 2, and of course, Jurassic Park.
Afton. We've got Afton here.
Now, the name Mr. Berg could be a reference to the Bergstrom family from the Fazbear Frights anthology horror story, Fetch. In robotics class, Abby tries to build a small replica of Chica, and this idea of rebuilding the animatronics or putting them back together,
the story that you're gonna fix those animatronics,
is lifted right from the games. That line first appeared in FNAF 4, and it's been well theorized that after the crying child was bitten by Fredbear, his father, William Afton, promised to fix him while he was on his deathbed by using a mic'd-up Fredbear plushie to communicate with him.
Psychic friend Fredbear.
Now, when Abby gets home from school, she turns on the Spectral Spook show about a ghost-hunting squad who we'll touch more on later. But they gave us huge Specs and Tucker energy from another Blumhouse production, Insidious.
The tech stuff's not really relevant to you guys anyway.
It's all very relevant, actually.
Vanessa is now seemingly recovered from her stab wound-induced coma, and she and Mike go out on a date and discuss Vanessa's continuing nightmare about her father. Mike says how she...
never gonna be able to move forward until you deal with some of the mess you left in your head.
Alluding to what she said in the first film.
if he's there, I won't be any use to you, believe me.
Now, this theme of Afton having some type of mental control over Vanessa is entirely ripped from the VR game Help Wanted. While playing as a beta tester for an in-universe Fazbear virtual experience, her mind became hacked by the digital manifestation of Afton's soul, aka Glitch Trap. Digital what? He's an AI now? It's a whole thing we don't need to get into. All you need to know is that after that, Vanessa, or Vanny, goes on to become the antagonist of the next game, Security Breach, with her main goal being to restore Glitch Trap to a physical form. She's basically Afton's liaison to the real world and doing his bidding, similar to Vanessa's compliance regarding her father in these movies. She and Mike discussed dream theory from the first movie.
Every single thing that you see your entire lifetime, the tiniest of details, gets stored inside of you,
suggesting that she should use it as a way to confront her father's misdeeds in her youth. Now, dream theory in itself is a reference to a very popular fan theory that the first 4 FNAF games were not real, but instead just dreams that the crying child had while in a coma from the... After their date, Mike realizes that Abby ran off back to the Freddy's location from the last film to be with her friends. When he walks in, we see the Smash poster from when the goons broke in and trashed the place in the first movie, and we see how this location has deteriorated after being abandoned for 2 years. Mike tries to cheer Abby up by giving her a toy from the prize counter, which appeared on the map in the first game, but didn't fully appear in-game until FNAF 2. At the prize counter, we see some marionette plushies, Foxy Mask, and a Freddy plushie, just like the one on the bed in FNAF 4. When Mike squeezes it, we also hear an ever so frequently mean version of the Freddy death song. Out of all the toys there, Abby picks up the Faz Talker, which is a speak and spell type device that lets you talk to the animatronics. This is an invention for the films. The closest things in game are the Roxy Talkies from FNAF Security Breach DLC Ruin. In that game, the protagonist Cassie was being led throughout the Pizzaplex by the Mimic, another FNAF villain, posing as her friend Gregory, very similar to how the puppet posed as the other animatronics to lead Abby back to the pizzeria. The way they implement the Faz Talker, though, is much more interesting than a walkie-talkie, but we'll come back to that in a second. Now, when they leave Freddy's, Mike notices a bunch of flyers for Faz Fest taped onto the door. Now, this is an in-universe festival that the town is putting on because of the frenzy over what happened at Freddy's 2 years ago. We see some cosplayers earlier on Mike's block, a hint about what's to come at this festival. Now, the festival is most likely a reference to the Fall Fest from the game, which was introduced during the Help Wanted DLC, Curse of the Dreadbear, and Secret of the Mimic. It's believed to have run between the 1970s and 80s, as we see a poster in-game for the 1970 Fall Fest celebration and Help Wanted 2, and a banner for the 83 celebration and Curse of the Dreadbear. Behind the FazFest posters, there's a flyer warning that Freddy is a murderer and to call the number 555-0192. So unfortunately, it's not a real phone number. 555 is what they use for fictional phone numbers in TV shows and movies, but man, it would have been cool if this was a real number. We then catch back up with the Spectral Scoopers in their Mystery Machine-esque van. Well, not really, it actually looks a lot like the Fazbear Entertainment van for the most recent game Secret of the Mimic. Their license plate is also ICD-EDP, a reference to the iconic quote from the M. Night Shyamalan film The Sixth Sense.
I see dead people.
Not only is this a fun horror nod, but it's also a reference to Abby and how she was the first to see the dead children. And then we get part of what we think is the biggest reveal in the movie franchise thus far. They mention how some security guard named Mike called them to investigate here, leading the audience to believe that they mean our Mike. But no, there is another Mike, Michael Afton. I don't want to get too far into it right now as the real reveal takes place later, but let's just say I was not expecting this. He's also wearing a Freddy badge on his security uniform, similar to the one Vanessa gave Mike in the last film.
There. Now you're official.
So the Scoopers, which, side note, I think is another Easter egg to the Scooper and Sister location. I mean, you can't put this guy next to something called Scoopers and expect people not to connect the two.
The scooper only hurts for a moment.
But anyways, as they make their way through the original Freddy's location, we get a more in-depth view at just how detailed this screen adaptation is. Like how the plot picks and chooses certain elements from each game and book, the set does the same. We see the Balloon Boy and the carousel from FNAF 2, but something like the Kids Cove from Security Breach. The walls all have the same design as the FNAF 2 building with Rock, Eat, Party, and Play written on the top lining. That's the same phrase seen in many of the FNAF character posters. But there's also this totally new water boat ride thing in the center of it that's not from any game. Regardless, it looks like a kid's dream pizza place, or was. The group all then look at the toy animatronics, the plasticky looking upgrades of the originals, and see that Toy Foxy is missing. Michael explains that they got taken apart and mangled by children during the Pull Apart Foxy game and were never put back together. Hence the name Mangle was given to the animatronics. During their conversation, McKenna Grace's character Lisa hears music through the ghost hunting headphones that she's wearing. The music she hears is the same lullaby played in the FNAF 2 game to keep the marionette in its box.
You guys hear that?
Ich guck mal kurz hier nach.
This is a detail that we absolutely loved. A huge mechanic in the second game was making sure that music box was running the whole night, or else the puppet would jump out at you. So I thought they incorporated that aspect in a really fun way. So Lisa, like any horror protagonist, follows the creepy music down into the depths of the pizzeria. Underneath the stage in the strip trap door is a giant music box where the marionette rests inside. A small shift from the games where the marionette's box was in the prize corner. But I think this change was improved. The size of the box and the puppet itself was just so intimidating. I thought it worked much better than being shoved in the corner of the gift section. Lisa then stops the music box, letting the marionette, aka Charlie, out of the box, who goes on to attack and possess Lisa. While that's happening, upstairs her camera crew is attacked by Mangle, who drops down from the ceiling just like they do in FNAF 2. In the boat area, her sound guy is attacked by all the little marionettes lining the walls. Now this is another game element combination. So the little marionette design is very similar to the plush Nightmarians that we see throughout the Pizzaplex in Security Breach, but the way they move and attack is a lot like the mini arenas in Sister Location. When Michael goes downstairs to check on Lisa, we see that Charlie / the marionette has taken over her completely. The way she turns toward him, slightly covering her face with her arms, eyes cast down, calls back to the famous fallen angel painting, which Charlie literally is. She also moves toward him in a way that can only be described as the Exorcist crawl. We then cut to Vanessa, who's still going through it. While at a spin class, she hallucinates her dad as the yellow rabbit taunting her. Goes so far as to pull a gun on somebody that she thinks was attacking her. Finally, taking Mike's advice, she goes home to prepare herself for a dream theory session. Now, Vanessa goes into her closet and she pulls out a box, and man, has it been ages, but ever since FNAF 4, I always wanted to know, what's in the box? Really, person? A box? No, look, it's actually been a big FNAF mystery for quite some time. So in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, there is a cutscene at the end of Night 7 that shows a box very similar to the one Vanessa has that has 2 locks on it. It never opens in game, with text appearing saying perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now. So it was never revealed what was in the box. Scott Cawthon himself has even said that the contents of the box can change.
There is something in the box, but I never pursued it.
Für
And I don't know
jeden
if I
meine
can find it again.
But
Herausforderung.
I think this film
man
has
das
one
erste
of the
Mal
best
drin ist.
answers for what could be
Und
in the
als
box.
ich-
Vanessa takes out several trinkets, some marbles, a
Und als
mirror,
ich
and
das
Garrett's
allererste
plane,
Mal in die
leading us to
Akte drin
assume the
gewesen bin,
contents were all gifts
ich
that
hatte
her
damit
father
kein
gave
Problem.
her
Bei
that she
jedem
then
ist
locked
ja
away,
anders.
things that were best
Ja,
left
es gibt-
forgotten. She then
gibt so
shutters the
viele
blinds,
Leute, die
turns
beim
off the lights,
ersten
and
Mal
puts
gleich kein
static
Problem
on
haben.
the
Gibt's nicht
TV,
so
a
viele
reference to
Leute.
the static page that you get when you die in the first two FNAF games, and also a reference to the iconic horror films The Ring and
Was ich bei mir
Poltergeist.
habe,
Vanessa then
ist,
transports back into her memories of her father, traveling through her
Zuerst
dreams
hatte
to
ich
fight her
von
biggest
meinem
villain,
VR-Headset
very Dream
nur
Warriors
über Kabel
inspired. The house she wakes up in is
angeschlossen.
very similar
Zuerst
to the one seen in FNAF
mein
4, the
Headset
setting
kam
for, dare I say, the
nur sehr
scariest
spät
game in the
VR-Chat.
franchise. She
Sehr
confronts her dad in a very eerie scene. Now,
Ja.
Afton is
Ja.
at first only shown in shadows, like
Ja,
the
ich sag mal.
animatronics throughout the films, and is standing at the end of the hall in front of his workshop. And I have to shout out the cinematographer Lynn Moncrief here. During the height of this scene, he does a dolly zoom on Afton that is just so creepy.
ist
This
so
emphasizes the
Alter.
power that he mentally has over Vanessa, and it hammers in how
Alter.
small she feels compared to him. And we see that made literal in the next scene when Vanessa reverts back to a child running through her house. She then runs into his office where we see blueprints for new Freddy designs, and based on these sketches, we can tell that these were the animatronics from the first movie, the classic Freddy designs. As William approaches the offices, whistling the same tune as before, Vanessa hides in a closet and comes face to face with Circus Baby. So this is an animatronic from the FNAF game's sister location, which has some of the most important lore drops in the franchise. In the game lore, Circus
Wen ich
Baby
von
was
Sister
responsible for
Location
accidentally
wirklich
killing
gern
Afton's
mag, ist
daughter
von
Elizabeth after a
Foxy.
scheme of his backfired on his own child. Seeing as this is a flashback, I wonder where Circus Baby is now. In the game, she was stored at Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, an underground facility serving as a holding spot for Afton's animatronics. So I wonder if this will be revealed in a future installment. When Afton finds her, he tells her that she'll always be his, similar to this statement.
I always come back.
And it also just shows what type of person he is. He doesn't see his children as children, but rather as extensions of his inventions. They are no different from the animatronics that he's created. They are his property. We then cut to the Schmidt household where the fast talker is coming to life. The text-to-speech voice that he has is the same voice that we heard at the end of the first film.
Okay.
And the same voice of the marionette within the game. Abby, unbeknownst to her, follows the marionette's directions to the original Freddy's location, thinking her friends are calling for help. In the old Freddy's, we meet Toy Chica, who is voiced by none other than Megan Fox.
I am a god. Okay.
And also Toy Bonnie, who is voiced by YouTube's very own Matt Pat.
I'm in the FNAF movie!
Who already had a cameo here in the first film.
But, you know, it's just a theory.
Wanting to get to the bottom of the FNAF mystery, Mike then seeks out the man from the flyer that turns out to be none other than Henry Emily, Charlotte's father, played by horror legend Skeet Ulrich. Now, this is just so cool for many reasons. First, Ulrich and Lillard go all the way back to the seminal horror film Scream, where they played Billy and Stu, the killers behind the Ghostface mantle. Not only are they reuniting in another horror film, but they're also reuniting once again as partners, well, ex-partners. Additionally, this is a major development for FNAF fans. Unlike Afton, Emily has always been more of a background force, his first appearance being in the FNAF book The Silver Eyes, and later in the official character encyclopedia. So, to have a face to the name this early in the franchise is revolutionary. We get more insight on Charlie's death and the cover-up afterwards. While going through Henry's scrapbook of Charlie, we see a letter that she wrote to him about missing her birthday party, and Henry is apologetic about how he wasn't there for Charlie when she needed him, which is similar to his ending monologue in Pizza Simulator.
My daughter, if you can hear me, I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms.
We also see an article written about William Afton and his triumph in the robotics field, which was penned by Ed Borish, which is the name of the props master in this movie. Mike then shows Henry a flyer for the old Freddy's location, and the address is 12525 Amazement Drive, a reference to the release date of the movie, December 5th, 2025. After finding out that Abby went back, Vanessa then travels to that Freddy's location to investigate and is confronted by Charlie in Lisa's body. Charlie is controlling Chica, making her convince Abby to turn off the animatronics perimeter lock, which is what makes them stay in the pizzeria even without Afton being in control of them.
Wait, they can leave the pizzeria?
Yep, both the book the week before and one of the endings of Security Breach confirmed that the animatronics can leave the restaurant, but they won't last long. Their batteries weren't made for roaming that far and will run out without a constant charge, as we see later on. Now, when their perimeter lock is taken offline, the animatronics are then free to leave, and we see Chica, Bonnie, and Freddy all leave and go out into the world. They take a cab to leave the pizzeria, a callback to the first movie with the same cameo from YouTuber Corey X Kenshin.
Why do I always get the weirdos?
And then we get a straight out of the game jump scare from Toy Chica. The song playing here is Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics, another callback to the first film. At Abby's Robotics Fair, we see some more of the toy animatronics functionality at play. Chica looks out into the crowd and we see a heads-up display of her scanning technology analyzing all the adults in the crowd. So, in-game, the toy animatronic becomes hostile at night because of a facial recognition system that makes them behave aggressively toward anyone aside from children. And this blends in well with Charlie's plan for vengeance. As I said earlier, Charlie died in part because of the negligence of the adults around her. So now she plans to get back at every adult in town using the software for her own benefit. And then we get to, in my opinion, the coolest scene in the film, when we get into the actual gameplay. As Vanessa leaves, she gets attacked in her car by Mangle. And while we haven't seen them leave the building, we have seen something similar happen in The Secret of the Mimic, when Arnold, the protagonist of that game, gets attacked in his car by the Mimic while escaping. So while Vanessa tries to track down the rogue animatronics, Mike...
Which one?
I know, it's a little confusing. Our Mike stays back and plays through an IRL game of FNAF 2, and it is awesome. The office itself is a one-to-one replica of the one from the game, from the light panels on the side to the vents to the vast open space between you and the withered animatronics that want to stuff you in a suit. It's actually amazing how many of the game's mechanics they were able to transfer to the film. For instance, they did the Fazbear mask function without it feeling gimmicky and off.
There's no way that'll work.
So, first we get a Balloon Boy jump scare, which, like in the game, doesn't hurt Mike, it just makes everything really freaking annoying. He laughs, makes a bunch of stuff break, and shines a bright light into the room, alerting practically every other animatronic that someone is in the room. Mike, in a very satisfying move, rips off the Balloon Boy's head. Probably had enough of him after that first jump scare in FNAF 1. After that Balloon Boy blast of noise, Chica, Bonnie, and Freddy all swarm the desk, and they nearly get to Mike before he whips on the Fazbear mask. That shields him from being scanned as anything other than animatronic by the others. Well, except for Foxy, who can see through the disguise just like his game counterpart. Now, before the animatronics are shut down by Mike, we get a sneak cameo from Aunt Jane's lawyer, Doug, in the first film.
I'm a lawyer?
Not you, Doug. This Doug.
Is that guy okay?
Yeah.
Mike successfully shuts down the animatronics, which gives them all a security breach pop up on their screens, a nod to the game of the same name. However, he notices that one is still active, the marionette, who has now taken her eyes off Lisa and focused on Abby. When Vanessa goes to confront Charlie, she is attacked by marionette Abby, who looks an awful lot like the Babadook. Mike is quick to get there and stops her with a new music box, one given to him by Henry Emily, Charlotte's father. This music box has a ballerina inside of it, a reference to the sister location character Ballora, but it plays the original marionette theme from FNAF 2 that we heard earlier. As the three of them get their bearings, the house is surrounded by the toy animatronics, closing in for the kill. And it's then revealed that Michael Afton has been behind this the whole time as a means to continue his father's work. Now, this is a huge departure from the game lore, which follows Michael on his journey to end his father's monstrous ways and atone for the accidental killing of his brother. It's also interesting that we now have two Mikes. So in the first game, Mike Schmidt, who's the namesake of Josh Hutcherson's character, was only an alias for Michael Afton. I'm interested to see how they handle this, shifting Michael Afton from an anti-hero to more of a villain, especially with how Vanessa ends up, but more on that in a second. We then get what I can only describe as an Avengers Endgame portal moment when the original animatronics individually show up one by one and take out their new flashy counterparts.
Don't f with the original.
It's sort of a full circle moment for these missing kids, getting revenge on the animatronics that trap their souls. But that's just right before their batteries run out. Now, this was hinted at earlier, but Afton didn't design these animatronics to go long distances. In one of the security breach endings, after escaping the Pizzaplex, Gregory has to use a car battery to continue to power Glamrock Freddy in place of his regular charging unit. After saying goodbyes to her friends, Abby and Mike leave the house, distancing themselves from Vanessa, who has unknowingly continued to put them both in danger. And right before the credits roll, the spirit of Charlotte possesses Vanessa, and we see her eyes turn silver. a reference to the FNAF book, Silver Eyes. Which brings us to the end credits and the setup for what could be the coolest FNAF film yet. A crew of scavengers break into the old Freddy's place looking to find anything to put inside their haunted attraction, directly setting up FNAF 3, which follows the same plot. They even find the main attraction in a secret back room, Springtrap, aka William Afton. Following the post-credits scroll, the voice of Henry Emily tells Mike Schmidt on tape that he has to be careful and that he has information on Afton and the animatronics because he used to be his business partner. This is exactly like their relationship in the games, the books, and the original lore. His use of the tapes is also a reference to his in-game moniker, Cassette Man, as he was initially only heard on tape in his first appearance in Pizzeria Simulator. So guys, that's all the Easter eggs that we found in the Five Nights at Freddy's sequel. I think this film is a major improvement from the first one. The production design was incredible, and we can't wait to see where they take this franchise. Big shout out to Lee Mazzio and Brianna McLarty who wrote this video. You can find their social links below. So I want to know what you guys thought. You can let me know down in the comments. You can at me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or on our free-to-join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Oh, der Hund ist süß.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and Five Nights at Freddy's 2 released Friday, and boy, have things gotten way worse. It's been a year since the events of the first movie, and while Mike, Abby, and Vanessa are all trying to move forward, none of them have escaped the trauma of the first movie. They're either repressing memories that refuse to stay buried, or searching for bonds in ways you weren't expecting. In this video, we're breaking down the movie scene by scene, pulling out every little hidden detail and Easter egg that I could find, or that you might have missed. Alright. Let's get into this breakdown. We open the movie with a scene we got a bit of in the first trailer with the Showtime button. We heard this soundbite in the trailers as well.
Welcome back. Are you ready to start the show?
Then we hear the classic Freddy song from the first game. Toreador's March lightly plays in the background. There's gonna be some people humming it or whistling it. It comes up a lot throughout the movie. And then we're back in 1982 at the first original Freddy Fazbear location. Grace McKenna's character Lisa later explains how this is the original, not the franchise location. Inside, everything's so festive. It feels like the same level of fun you'd get at a major location like Pizzaplex and Security Breach. From behind the scenes footage, they actually showed a lot of what I love about the restaurant, the carousel with the characters, designs that feel very FNAF, and the party hats on the table, and fake presents just everywhere. I like that you can see the pizzas on the wall like the ones you see at Kids Cove. And speaking of which, you can see Mangled's Pirate Cove, which is featured in the games. They also have a row of arcade games. These actually belong to the Fazbear Fanverse Initiatives, which is what the FNAF creator Scott labeled them as, Candies and Pop Goes. They're basically fan games inspired by FNAF games. And this is when we meet Charlotte Emily, played by Audrey Lynn Marie. As we see in the movie, Charlotte is the daughter of Henry Emily, the co-founder and partner of William Afton, which aligns pretty much with the game storyline, just as her dying and becoming one with the marionette, which we'll get into shortly. I love the added little detail that Charlotte's sleeves are also like the marionette's black and white stripes because they're foreshadowing. Charlotte's best friend is young Vanessa, who reassures her that everything will be okay and warns her not to rely too much on the marionette. She kind of even criticizes it, how Charlotte treats it like a spirit parent, which I don't know what that really means, but could mean two things. A, Charlotte's father is clearly absent, and we'll see them allude to the fact throughout the movie, so she clings to the puppet as a sort of stand-in parental figure. Or B, it's foreshadowing again. Calling it a spirit parent kind of hints that her own spirit will eventually possess this puppet. In the distance, Charlotte notices the yellow rabbit, the Spring Bonnie suit that we saw in the first movie, which William Afton gets in. Charlotte runs to every parent begging for help, and no one helps her. They wave her off as a child. They're busy. They're having a conversation, and this forces Charlotte to go alone to save the child. In the kitchen, she sees the boy unconscious on the ground and William Afton at the sink. Charlotte goes to save the boy, and William Afton in the suit grabs a kitchen knife, which will go down as his weapon of choice, which is very slashery, you know, like it's Mike Myers, it's giving Ghostface, which is actually very funny because this is Matthew Lillard's second franchise where he's a masked man stabbing children. Is it a coincidence? Of course it's not. Skeet's in this movie too. They love Wes Craven. His eyes light up when he chases Charlotte through the darkened hallways with the boy, and these massive steps the characters make are so scary. I wasn't even in a Dolby theater, and the sound of their stomps shook my chair. You can tell by now this one doesn't look identical to the suit that we saw in the first movie. The teeth are different, but I also assume that's just the looks upgraded change from the first movie. Also, these puppet costumes are massive. They are giant, and the puppet makers, whoo, good work. Now, in front of everyone and still unnoticed, Charlotte screams and collapses over, luckily with the boy having been saved, but unfortunately with 3 stab wounds across her back, given to her from someone behind the curtain. William Afton. Who said that? And then the trapdoor opens underneath her and it's revealed the marionette was what she was waiting for, what she wanted this entire time, and she's now in its arms being cradled. What I really like about this movie is that while the games have really good enticing lore, it's really tough to translate every plot point into a movie. In the games, the marionette was created by Henry Emily as a security measure, but I've always seen it as protecting Charlie, or Charlotte too. One night after some kids trapped the marionette in its box and Charlotte was locked outside the restaurant, William Afton appeared and killed her on a dark, stormy night. In her final moments, once the marionette was freed, it found Charlotte's body and her spirit bonded with it. The movie does a great job focusing on the heartfelt core of these major plot lines, and I love that even though we don't get the iconic moment of like a marionette holding Charlotte in the rain, the film still finds a beautiful way to find the marionette holding her here. It immediately shifts into this 8-bit art capturing the game's pixelated mini games, and we got a similar thing in the beginning of the first movie as well. And then we see an array of news articles about the closing of the location and how people kind of blame Charlotte for everything. We'll later learn from Henry Emily that everyone assumed Charlotte's death was an accident. However, he quickly then realized that William Afton was responsible, especially after the other children went missing a few years later. Side note, the soundtrack features original music composed by the Newton brothers, who did Daredevil Born Again, X-Men 97, and a lot of Mike Flanagan projects, and they previously scored the original 2023 movie as well. I really like it. It's amazing. It was one of the first things I noticed when I was watching the movie. Then we close the opening credits with a photo of Vanessa and her father, an image we first saw in the original movie. And she's holding the plane that belongs to Garrett, Mike's younger brother in the first movie, and this little plane will make another return cameo shortly. We jump 20 years later, but only 1 year after the events of the first movie. We're reintroduced to Jeremiah, played by Theodis Crane, who is in the first movie, he was friends with Mike and a fellow security guard at the mall. He calls Vanessa either crazy eyes or crazy ass. It was hard to tell in the theater which one he said, but honestly, either one ends up being perfect description for the impression she leaves on all of us in the final seconds of the movie, because she does become a crazy kind of thing, you know? They moved into a new house, and since the events of the last movie, everyone is very into the lore of Freddy's, and a lot of it stems from their Aunt Jane telling everyone. If you remember the first movie, Aunt Jane was trying to gain custody of Abby. The last night we see her, Mike asks Aunt Jane to watch Abby, and Freddy then shows up. We don't see exactly what happens. We see Jane's unconscious body on the ground, and the child says that she fell asleep. We all kind of assumed, or at least I did, that she died, but the movie never confirmed it. And then we learn here, she told everyone what happened, no one believed her really, and then she was committed. So no more Aunt Jane. It's that time of the year where you start thinking all the lingering rumors about these animatronics being possessed and killing and eating people doesn't really help when it's revealed that Abby is also telling everyone at school what happened to her. She tells them about the yellow rabbit and how the spring suit killed William Afton from the inside, and not many kids believe her, but some do. This is another moment I really appreciate in the second movie. Something they could easily have done in the first movie is really just quickly and a little more cleanly explain things. The recap is delivered in this tight speech from Abby, and later when we're talking about the withered animatronics, Vanessa jumps in and explains the reasoning for them even being here. It's that quick, and then you just connect it to the video games. Easy. Abby attends Eastlake Middle School, home of the Otters, and she's taking a robotics class. What a coincidence. Her teacher is actually played by Wayne Knight. You know, from Jurassic Park, from Space Jam, from Seinfeld. For us old folks watching this movie, that's iconic, especially because he leans into 2 very fun Jurassic Park Easter eggs in this movie, and I'll point them out later when we see them. On the chalkboard in the class, I saw the design for the robot's motor, and I was like, huh, that looks exactly like the diagram for the cams in game. But then I was like, oh, it also looks like the blueprints for the design we saw under Freddy in Vanessa's dream. It could be both. Abby's creating a robot that will progressively, get better with time, but right now it has a bit of a duck bill and a 3 little prongs on top of its head. It's supposed to be Chica, but it does look like an Endo 01 from the first game, which is the inside frame for the animatronics, just the endoskeleton. Later at home, Abby is watching a show, and this is where we first see McKenna Grace's character, Lisa. She runs a paranormal show called Spectral Scoopers. The trio acts as ghost hunters. It's revealed that Vanessa is having these reoccurring nightmares, much like Mike did after his brother's disappearance, and in those dreams, she's confronted by her father. Mike encourages her to face him in those dreams head on, and these are the scenes that